It's time for another blistering report from the front lines of the cultural war for a constitutional America. And now, here's your host, Charles Benninghoff.
Targeted with pepper spray. Police say anti-Trump protesters sprayed 5 Trump supporters, including an 8 and 11-year-old girl outside Anaheim City Hall. The Trump supporters were treated at the scene.
Who's against Trump? Who's with Trump? Who's with Trump? You with Trump? You with Trump?
I'm trying to stand up for somebody.
Are you with Trump? Are you with Trump, man?
The political left in America has always been insane, militant, and violent. Many scholars have concluded that liberalism is a mental disease, and today's events that are unfolding confirm that allegation without doubt. But ever since a groundswell of patriotic support rose for Donald Trump, the Democrats have failed to rein in the crazies on their side of the political aisle. So we have to face a new reality in America, which is, if you're a traditional patriotic Trump supporter, you can be a target of political violence in your own country. We have to start rethinking some of the long-standing traditions in America if conservatives are going to win this fight. One of those traditions is a filibuster in the United States Senate. The reason why I bring this up is because Donald Trump is about to announce his nominee for the Supreme Court, his first one. And he will likely have to appoint several justices before he leaves office. We need to call on Senate Republicans to invoke the nuclear option and finally do away with the filibuster. Otherwise, President Trump will never be able to appoint a conservative justice to the Supreme Court. I'll tell you now how you can join this battle, so stay tuned. The New York Post, by the way, has an article which I've linked to on today's action page, which explains its opinion that the Democrat Party is now so obstructionist and so violently anti-Trump, there's no possibility for the 52-vote majority Republicans to approve any nominee. So long as a filibuster rule's in place, any Supreme Court nominee will require 60 votes for approval. But if we can convince the Senate Republicans to invoke the nuclear option and do away with the filibuster, nominees will only require a 51-vote majority, and that makes imminent sense. Former Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid from Nevada invoked the nuclear option when he was in power on federal court nominees, but left the filibuster in place for Supreme Court nominees. So the Democrats opened this can of worms. The filibuster, by the way, is not even in the Constitution, nowhere to be found. It is a Senate rule with a long-standing tradition, but it is not federal law, and it is not enshrined in the Constitution. You might like the filibuster because it's been around for a long time, but we've turned a corner in America now. The Democrat Party will watch its own supporters shoot pepper spray into the face of a young girl at a Donald Trump rally, and the left is celebrating that violence. Horrible. I know that there are self-loathing Republican moderates out there who will argue we must preserve the tradition of the filibuster. No doubt they will insist we are stooping to the level of Democrats, and instead we must take a high moral ground by keeping the filibuster in place. Well, guess what? Trying to fight fair against a group that is willing to pepper spray little girls at a peaceful rally is a strategy that has failed the Republican Party for decades. Remember, the Supreme Court, with a quote-unquote conservative majority, found it was acceptable for the federal government to force all Americans to purchase Obamacare insurance by calling it a tax. The GOP moderates have been trying to use the Marquess of Queensberry rules for 30 years, while the Democrats are showing up to fight with brass knuckles, pepper spray, and baseball bats. And you know what? The Democrats keep winning. Republicans and conservatives keep losing to these thugs because we've been unwilling to get tough with them. Well, the ultimate question is, do you want to lose your country? Then by all means, demand that the filibuster stay in place. Force Donald Trump to nominate another left-wing Supreme Court justice who can't tell the Constitution from a hole in the ground. But if you want to make America great again, and if you want to restore our country to a peaceful and prosperous state, we need to convince the Senate to invoke the nuclear option and do away with the filibuster. The filibuster can always be reinstated at a later date after the Democrat Party calms down. If we want to, there's nothing stopping us. But so long as they're willing to target us with political violence, we need to show them we mean business. Donald Trump won the election, and we're going to remake the Supreme Court into a body that will respect the Constitution. So help us make that happen. Go to our action page and speak out to the Senate. Tell the senators to invoke the nuclear option and do away with the filibuster. Bob Mallory has instructions on the next screen explaining how to get to our action page. So do it now. Take action. This is Charles Benninghoff signing off and wishing you freedom, fulfillment, and God's many, many blessings.
If you're on our action page on our website, use the form next to the video screen to select a program. If you're watching this on YouTube or Facebook, click the icon appearing now to find a link to our action page. Or check the video's description to find the link. Speak out today.